Oof, the afro. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, good afternoon. I know I got my glasses on. I've been on all day. Hello to the guest that's coming in. Hello, everyone coming in. Well, without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. So again, Queens of Production, we are always here to educate, elevate, collaborate with many people and different topics that are in your spaces of production. And again, with the feedback that I've gotten, people are like, we need to know more outside of producing. So I've had a couple special guests kicked off the IG Live Talk, which is going to be awesome this fall. I have a lot of special guests that are just going to be talking about their life, their story, and we're going to talk about current topics that kind of correlate with what they do in their role. So yesterday we had our special guest, Marissa. She is a part of and created Retail While Black and also Target While Black. And we talk all things Black-owned businesses, knowing the differences between Black-owned, Black-led, Black-founded for retail products and things like that. And also just understanding, the dynamics of supporting these type of businesses, especially that we're elevating into the social media content creator era. So definitely, if you want to take a look, we have recaps and the full video on our Queens of Production space. But now we've transitioned over to today. I'm really excited because I have been wanting to talk to this special guest since last year, since I've met him, and met him physically this year. Eric Campbell, amazing person. He is just everything. I would honestly call him like the music sync academy guru. Like, he just given me just in the hours that I met him, nuggets of what the music industry is and transitioning over into the sync placement space. If many don't know, we'll dive into that space. But like I said, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring the guest and we'll all talk about the jazz of that just dynamic. Because I really think as far as independent creatives in music, they have to have residuals of income. In music, it's a hot mess right now. And so creatives, we need to be able to find avenues as well, also with Hollywood and the strike. We need to find other spaces to get the coin. So I think with having Eric here, he's going to give us the full breakdown on how you can earn. Just really, really excited. Let's dive on in. You can come on into the space. Hey, Eric!
What up, Tony?
How's it going? How's it going?
I'm going good. It's going cool. Everything is awesome. How are you doing?
Look, listen, I'm doing well, especially with Cali. It's a little sunshine. We've been getting a little wind. It's still hot over here on this side, but hopefully it'll start cooling down now that the fall is kind of trickling on in. How are you on that side of town?
So I'm in Arizona, which is like a boiling furnace. And it's like this summer has been ridiculous. I actually left. I went to New York for the summer, which is where I'm from.
Okay.
And which was cool. New York was like 85, like most times, which is really unusual, but it was pleasant. So I got back here like a week ago, and it was still like 105 degrees.
Yeah.
So this week it just started to break, and for Arizona, breaking means like it's below 100. It's like 95 out, which is actually pleasant here. Like, people are like, that's like a respite from all the craziness. So I'm doing good now.
I don't know how you do it. Like, I feel like your area is like literally the desert zone, just like New Mexico, Vegas, all of that realm. Like, it's just hot. Like, I couldn't even go outside. You can't even deal with the functionings of your day to day. Like, I would be inside all day. Oh no, I think we lost him. See if we can bring him back. Let's see. See if we can bring him back. All right.
There we go. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just cut off on me. He kicked me out.
Listen. It said it's too hot.
Yeah, it's like, no, we're not dealing with that Arizona talk.
Well, before we, go off the grid, I want to first thank you so much for having this time to have this IG Live talk with us. I know we could talk all day long about this topic because, again, I feel like music goes hand in hand with creating with TV and film.
Yes.
And now you're kind of seeing the blend, but we'll kind of dive into how it really has historically been like the vessel in a lot of these big monumental movies, TVs, film, and stuff like that. So, as we dive to the top, tell us more about yourself. Of course, how we met. You had like a meetup here in LA, and you just had like a lot of either people like who's in music or like producers like myself and like others just come together and just have a little talk. And I met a lot of people, and we were just all just amazed at the stuff that you learn and know so much. So tell us your background. Tell us how you got into the space and like what made you captivate into blending music with TV and film. Oh no, I feel like we got to get it back again. Let's see. Okay. All right.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. We got you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something on my end doing there, but I'm trying to make sure I don't have anything. I don't have any calls coming through or anything. So,
Right. Right.
hopefully we're
Well,
okay.
tell us about yourself and your background about music. What made you get interested in this sync placement world?
Okay. So I've been doing music all my life, and originally from up and down the East Coast, from New York to DC down to Atlanta. And when I moved to Atlanta around 2007-ish, my goal was, or my hope was to write songs for artists. And I'm a producer and a songwriter, and so I wanted to be on big records and kind of write really big records. And so I struggled in Atlanta to kind of make those type of connections, and I was writing, demoing songs every night, doing the studio life, and got a couple of decent placements, but not worth all the time and like years that I was spending like just grinding.
Yeah.
And so as I was looking at what I could change, I kind of happened upon information about sync licensing. Found this organization that was doing like conferences all around how music works for film and TV, and so I got really into that, and it just seemed like a more straightforward path than the kind of pitching songs to labels.
Right.
And so I started on that, and within like a year of effort, I started, getting relationships with music libraries. Those music libraries started pitching my music to different television shows. I started, in short order, I started getting placements, primarily in a lot of like reality TV shows, some of the early like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but then I got on some dramas like Revenge and Shameless, and a lot of different, from dramas to reality shows, and it started coming pretty frequently, and I kind of got a vibe of the formula. It was, and so I just kept digging into that, like, locked in my own home studio in Atlanta, just cranking out instrumentals, but then also doing full songs, bringing in singers, had songs that I top line myself, and a lot of them were just landing in a lot of different places. And so that started working well, and I've always been one to kind of share information. And so I was pretty active in the Atlanta um, songwriter community scene. So I would, be part of music conferences and panels, just sharing how sync worked. And that led to me meeting a composer, producer that just got hired to work on Greenleaf, which was a show on Oprah's network. And it was the first show where I actually got hired to work on set. And so I worked on set there for the second season. Um, I wrote a bunch of songs that we used throughout the like episodes. I did vocal production with the actors, part of a whole team that produced the music for this series. So that opened my eyes to a whole different side, probably what you see all the time, but the whole different side of like actual show production and being on set and seeing all these people that it takes to come together to bring both music and the words and actors. And so a lot of times, like music for TV, we're very
Right.
isolated. We're kind of in our own world. And so that was pretty eye-opening to like feel like I was actually now part of this huge huge organization all focused on like bringing this vision to life. And so that sparked a big interest in me to do more of that and to just also explore what else is out here. You know, I've come to learn since then that sync is really, really broad. You know, since then I've worked on a couple of shows. I did Greenleaf. I worked on Step Up High Water, writing songs for that show. And then I've gone on to do music for ads. I've done some music in animation films. And so that all led up to 2019 with the pandemic and Clubhouse. The Clubhouse app really taking off because everybody was locked at home. And so me doing what I always do is me and another friend of mine, we got on and just started sharing on Clubhouse about how we've been getting our sync placement, how sync works. Like there's a few of us who are really passionate about sharing information. And Clubhouse just led to this huge community of people that were like really hungry for this information. And so that led me to starting Control Camp, which is the sync education community. And we have an online space. We do free education. I have free courses that I've built into the site. We do music submissions. And so all that to say, like Control Camp, once we had such a vibrant community, if I go to different cities, I'll try to do meetups while I'm in the city, just to do some face-to-face, which is what happened in LA. I was there for like, a week. And so, well, let's see who, people that I've never had a chance to see before. So funny is because we have a pretty good, large population in LA, I ended up doing like 3 back-to-back meetups in different parts of town, because I know you guys don't like to travel outside of like your particular neighborhood. Like you're not going to do more traveling in a certain. So I was like, you know what? I'm here for 3 days. I'm just going to do a different meetup in different parts of town. So I think I did one. I don't know where we were.
I think we were by like Hollywood, but kind of like in the outskirts of like area. It was close.
Yeah, so I did one there. I did one in Burbank. Maybe I was in Santa Monica. It was like 3 different spots. I can't remember. But yeah, each night, like about 20, 30 people came out, which was big enough, small enough for me to get to know everybody and put faces to names, people I've been seeing online. And so it was cool for you coming out because we don't always get a lot of people on the editing side and the production side. We don't always get to hear like your voice and hear, like you're the one that's like thinking about, how is music supposed to fit in here? And, a lot of things I teach now is, a lot of producers and musicians think that like the music supervisor is our primary customer. And in some ways they are, but I've learned that working hand in hand with a lot of people, a lot of times it's the editor that's actually like looking at the picture, cutting up the music, making things fit. And so we really need to understand your job so that we see the way you look at music and think about music. And so it was real cool having you there to get some insight on that.
Thank you, because honestly, like even from my perspective, I've been in cases exactly like you're saying. Like I've been in shows where it is like sometimes the editor making the decision on what the music is, and that's just only because with budget they're not able to have like a music supervisor or a coordinator to be able to just be focused on just the music. They'll hire just like an editor, and sometimes they don't know what the songs kind of correlate like, and we'll dive into that, like knowing the difference music tone wise of an animation versus film versus a sports show or sports documentary versus an animation versus Black owned content versus other diverse content. And so it was interesting really hearing like your all's perspective, like, hey, we just got the music, we're just trying to like out there. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like we are blended hand in hand, because with just seeing how music is transitioned more into the Afro beats, Latin, everybody wants to dance like type of dynamic, and you see it in the shows with competition-based style. You're seeing more of like the docu-follows of like music artists and docu-series and all that stuff blending in, and or topics of like film festivals and all these different topics that are more in these dynamics and music is needed. But as we dive into it, I think I want to give like a quick popcorn question.
Okay.
So for you, we always talk about how like sync placement, and actually before then, for those that don't know what sync placement is, give us Spark Notes 101. What is sync placement for the musician and what it is for when it goes into production for us as the editor? What would we need?
So from a musician's perspective, sync is a term we use for just attaching our music to some visual medium. So it's TV, it's film, video games, advertisements and commercials. And so anytime that, most music creators, we're creating music for ourselves or for our fans. So we're just thinking about streaming and performing it live. And so thinking of it from the visual medium requires kind of a shift, because it's not necessarily me connecting to the fan. It's me working with this visual story, and together we're now communicating to the fan. So the visual story has inserted itself between the musician and the fan. And so in order for that to work, my music has to work with the visual story so that we can then talk to the fan. And so for musicians, the biggest thing is, when music is going directly to fans without the visual medium, the music needs to be telling an entire story. We're telling a story about, the person that broke my heart, and how they may have done it in the middle of a park on a Saturday afternoon, and it was raining, and we're painting the whole picture. But if we're partnering with a film, that film is already telling a picture, it's telling a story. It sets the scene, whether the scene is in a park or on a cruise ship or what have you. So my music, therefore, doesn't need to tell the complete story. What it needs to dig into is the emotion of that moment that's being shown on the screen. And so that's a slightly different type of songwriting and some different types of production. So that's kind of how a musician needs to think about it. I think from your perspective, at least from people on the production side that I've spoken to, music is important to the telling of your story. It's important to setting the emotion. It's important to connecting to different demographics, of saying that, this story is for you, and music helps kind of put that glue together. And so so music is essentially telling the story, but just the legal landscape that we're working in, it becomes hard to just grab any piece of music that you want and just insert it into the story. You have on your side, you have to know all the legal things, like, is this music available? Who actually owns it? Is it something that the people that we can actually contact is there a single person that has signing authority or the ability to approve all this? Are there 25 writers? Do I need to find all 25? Like, those are things that you have to get involved with in order to make sure that you can find what you need to be able to tell your story.
And so going into the next topic, honestly, sync placement has been around forever, at least for me. I'm a music lover. I think the first thing for me, like what made me fall in love with just being a producer, was John Singleton and looking at his content. And the first thing that you see is the music. The first thing that you hear is the music. Same thing with Spike Lee. And I'll do a popcorn. My favorite soundtrack that I felt that blended well with a film or TV was Dead Presidents. I'm old school. I love how Isaac Hayes just did his thing on there. And if you don't know Dead Presidents, the movie, look it up. Lorenz Tate was on there, and just listen to the soundtrack. Phenomenal. Great. So for you, as far as sync placement, you can go back then to today. What is your best creation that just felt that music, TV, film blended well?
I have soundtracks that I love. I love like Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing. You can go Isaac Hayes all the way back to like Shaft. But I think for me, the strongest stuff, honestly, is like the TV shows out of the 70s and the 80s. So you have like Quincy Jones produced the theme to like Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
So you have like these you know comical or comedy shows with like major jazz oriented composers creating this whole 30-second, 60-second theme song. And that's kind of, extinct now. Like it doesn't exist really anymore. But to me, that first, that, I don't know, that always spoke to me of just how powerful, like, that music of that moment. And for me also, I've always lived both on the production and the
Right.
songwriter side. Like I really relate to lyrics. And so you take, some of those older shows and the lyrics, just even the old show like Alice or something, like if you look like just the lyrics for there, or Cheers, like they thought about how to say something that actually introduces what the entire concept is about. And so
Agreed.
I really related to
Agreed.
that.
And I even would even say like comparison from like the Dead President soundtrack to even now like the Issa Rae's and Shonda Rhimes taking it to a whole nother level on really understanding like the groove in music. Like you said, it drives the story. It gives
Yeah.
that cliffhanger if need to. And what I love what Issa Rae did is not only she just gave like independent artists the ability to have like Grammy nomination stuff from her
Yeah.
soundtrack. Like that's phenomenal.
Yes.
To even having Shonda Rhimes twisting the songs that we love and putting it into classical music, like phenomenal. I think
Yes.
it's now like, do you feel with examples like that, you feel that we need more like producers and people in the back end of TV to understand those dynamics, or do you feel like it's cracked the surface and still needs to be developed more?
Oh, it's so that's so interesting, and there's so much that could be said about that. I love what, I mean. You look what, like you said, Issa Rae, Shonda Rhimes. Even, I mean, Shonda Rhimes back to
Right.
Grey's Anatomy, like that set the standard for musical moments. That montage at the end of every episode, like every so for the longest time in Sync, like that was the bar that everybody wanted to hit. They wanted to be in the end of a Grey's Anatomy episode because
Right.
those musical moments were like the climax of the story and just so key and so important. So I do think they've done a great job. I think it's very important when the storyteller recognizes the power of music. I think, like, you look at both Issa and Chandra, like their power is they understand culture, they understand the music of the culture, but I mean all elements from the music to the fashion to the style. Like they're a part of the culture and they're telling the cultural story, which I think is so key and critical. So yeah, if you're going to tell any story, your ability to speak in the language of music, I think, heightens the story. And if you don't, then yeah, you need to have people in that production space who do understand the music. I think if there's sometimes you'll see, I think sometimes this is both. I see this in maybe in the TV space, but also in the commercial advertising space that I work in a lot. Sometimes music is the afterthought. It's like, let me tell my story. Let me think about what my locations are going to be. Let me come up, let me think, let me get this whole vision that's in my head. And then months later down the road, after you've expended all these expenses and got all this thing, it's like, oh, so what's the soundtrack to this supposed to be? Or what music's supposed to be playing under this? And then it's like scrambling to find a composer or scrambling to get a library. And so I think when you get directors where the music is at the forefront and they're thinking about it all the way through, I think you get, like, the stories you mentioned that where it's that much more powerful.
And so leading back to your accolades, going back to Control Camp and Sus3 Music, tell me, what did you feel the need that was missing as you were progressing in your journey, and what led to you basically doing your own business?
So most of my sync career took place in Atlanta, and my background is also somebody who was aspiring to play a larger role in the major mainstream, the major mainstream entertainment industry. And as I found sync, my first thought was, why didn't anybody tell me about this like years ago? Why didn't I know that this was? Why didn't I know that there was these paths? Like, I think a lot of musicians, producers, hip hop artists, singers grow up in it's a little different now, but when I grew up, the only option in all of our mind was get signed by a label or get a publishing deal. And, if you get a publishing deal, then get a song with Beyonce or somebody so you'll be set for life. Like, It's almost like the whole NFL, like it's NFL or nothing. Like I'm doing, major Super Bowl stuff or I'm a broke musician. And then, so as I came to find out that, man, there are all these other lanes where, okay, maybe I may not be a millionaire off of this, but I could feed my family. I could make good 5-6 figures doing music for, reality shows and there's plenty, scoring independent films, scoring television shows. Like there's so many lanes of avenues, and there's so few people that were talking about that as I was growing up, that it made me passionate to share the information, especially in being like growing up in New York, living over a decade in DC, living over a decade in Atlanta, 3 cities with large Black populations, seeing so many like talented producers and songwriters like myself grinding it out every night just in hopes on getting, on the next Drake album or getting a track on the next Migos album. When there's like, that's like 2 spots available and there's like 20 million producers in their bedrooms trying, working on stuff. And so knowing that that's our reality as musicians, it just really fueled me to say, it shouldn't have been as hard for me to find this information. What can I do to make it easier for other people to learn this information? So that's been my entire journey.
That's amazing. And shout out to you for giving that information, because sometimes people gatekeep that information. And we know the history of music business. Like, we still, even in Hollywood, we still got a long way to go. Like, again, we only got the couple rebels that'll be able to give that knowledge to the next generation, but that within itself, amazing. And so for anyone that's an independent artist, musician that is grinding, making music, and they're like, yo, I want to get my music into TV film, what would be just the 101 basic tips that you would give to an independent musician artist? And what do you feel like, and sometimes I know with artists too, they want to like do their music, do their lane. What are some genres that you feel that's happening now, even with the strike? What are some genres that you feel is like becoming popular that they need to look out for some of the songs that they want to create in the future?
Well, speaking to the genres first, within the last 3 or 4 years, hip hop has shot up in popularity and need, primarily because, early 2000 to 2010, it wasn't as represented, and there was just a few people kind of doing it. But our Black stories around the world, not just in U.S., but Africa, UK, like the whole spread of our culture around the world, our stories are being told in different places, and those stories need music. And so a lot of the traditional places that have been holding the music for TV, they weren't collecting a lot of hip hop in the past. And hip hop has always been tricky because we do a lot of sample based music, and it's also music sometimes created with lots and lots of writers. So there's a lot of reasons for people to just kind of avoid it altogether. But now, because authenticity is important, and people are seeing that, you can't tell a story about a young kid growing up in Chicago and have a Justin Bieber track playing in the background. Like it doesn't right. I mean, it doesn't necessarily work or fit the picture. So I feel the industry's playing catch up there, because the stories are coming. I mean, to Hollywood's credit, like up until the strike, like across all the streaming networks, across everything, like I do not struggle to find me version of me on TV anymore. Whereas like that was a real rare thing when I was growing up. Like, and so the stories are there, and we have to have the music that goes with those stories, and that's at all levels. That score, that's curated music in the story, that's promo and trailer music, which I feel like there's a little bit playing catch up on, because a lot of times trailers will, even if they're for a black story or an urban story, that still might have like that typical trailer sound and not look at how do we be more reflective of the story we're about to tell, or the story that we're promoting. And so, but in all levels, those agencies and storytellers have come a long way. And so hip hop, I think, is the number one genre being requested right now. But for somebody just starting out, I think one, studying. You can't get in this game without studying the game, because this game is totally different from all other aspects of the music industry that you may have been exposed to. So you could be a dope producer, you could have a million streams a month on Spotify, have a big following. It doesn't mean that your music necessarily works in this space. And so you really have to take the time to learn what works here, and then try to find an intersection between what works on film and what works with the fan base that you've already established, and try to see, you don't have to make two separate things, but you can try to find that point in the middle that you're like, most stuff for TV needs to be clean and needs to have a clean version. TV is totally anti-sampling. So whereas like mainstream music and labels, they love samples, they love pulling out of deep catalog stuff and getting stuff clear. That doesn't work on TV at all. So you have things like, Jersey Club or New Orleans Bounce, other things that are used to a lot of samples or remixing and stuff. A lot of that is hard to do in sync, and so you have to find ways to create that sound without the copyrighted sample. So taking the time to study that game and really requires watching TV with a different lens. Most of us watch TV to watch the story. Now we got to kind of stop and listen to the music, and listen to the music in the transitions, things we may have been like, in the past it's usually white noise. We're not really paying attention to that. Same thing with commercials. Most people, me included, up till a few years ago, most people have ad blockers on, and if you want to get in this game, you might need to turn the ad blocker off and actually start watching the commercials and say, okay, why did they use that music? What kind of music are they using? What genres am I hearing, in these commercials?
You know what? So, that is actually interesting, because first of all, I need to, well, I'm not a musician, but all musicians that's on here, unblock, okay? Because you need to pay attention, because the commercials, they still get the coin, like Super Bowl and like all those things. And so what would be one practice where you would watch, like, would be a good show or a good commercial for, and that's all for both of us, like, because I'm about to write this down too as a producer, in post, in creating all the things. What is like one show example where we do need to switch that like music like nugget on?
Well, interestingly, almost any reality shows probably use some of the most music of any scripted show. You'd be surprised.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time, because people be hating on reality TV. And let me tell you something. We are giving jobs. Okay, so say that one more time.
Really? Not so. So first of all, reality shows use more music than scripted shows, and they air them for longer periods of time. So I am still getting royalties for Kardashians, Love and Hip Hop episodes, Real Housewives of Potomac episodes that aired 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like so the cool thing about the reality shows, a lot of them may not pay money up front for the songs, because they're paying they use so much music. So one episode of the Kardashians might have like 40 pieces of music in that hour-long episode. And you won't notice the 40 pieces of music because they come so quick. So they do a lot of fast shot scenes, and between this scene is a quick 5-second transition which is like a hip-hop beat that's used. And then, another scene comes with a talking, and then there's a suspenseful moment, and there's another quick snippet of a 5 seconds. Each one of those 5 seconds, somebody has to get paid for that. And if you look at the whole hour-long thing, that's like 30, 40, 50 pieces of music used in that one episode.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the reality shows is, number one, they air in every territory around the world, and then they rerun forever. Like, they will go back and run the whole all 100 seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, starting at episode number one, and just run it like a super marathon. That happens all the time, and so these shows run forever. And while streaming has brought like some of the royalty payments down overall, it's still like you're still getting coin from something you did 10 years ago, and that may be airing like, I got 5 seconds of music in this episode, 10 seconds of music in that episode, and 20 seconds of music in this episode, and all those little things do add up. And
so I'm like, honestly, should you say like if the biggest tip is like for musicians and artists, like when they do think about sync placement submissions, should they make their songs a little bit shorter so they can have those opportunities, or should they still have the general 3 to 5 minutes?
It should be general songs. That length now is like 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes max, and that's even like with mainstream releases. But they you do want full songs, and they have to be arranged kind of like for a full song with verse and chorus. But so there's two different lanes. There's the pure instrumental composer who's making instrumentals that can be used on reality shows and dramas and TV and crime series. Those to do that type of work. One, you need to study the music in those shows and see how they're organized. I usually tell people who want to do that to go to one of the bigger libraries. One is called APM Music. Another is called Extreme Music. There's a few different ones out there, but I recommend them because those two make their catalogs available online. Okay. So you can literally go to their website and just browse collections and collections of music, all organized around a certain theme, and you can study how this music was arranged. A lot of that music isn't arranged in a verse chorus format. It's more arranged like a composition, like a 90-second long composition, and so it may be 90 seconds long, and every 4 bars something different is happening, and almost never returns to. It keeps one motif going, but you're giving editors lots and lots of options in those 90 seconds in a way that makes sense. So being able to give an editor a 90-second piece of music that this editor says, oh, I could tell lots of stories with this 90-second piece of music, that's the art. And that's how, when you learn how to do that, you can stay working as a composer, as a score composer, definitely doing production music. But there's so many different lanes. There are artists who are just trying to who make full-blown songs for their fans and want to use those techniques so that the songs that they're making for their fans can also work in a television show, or it could be something that is inserted in the middle of a show at the end of the montage, or maybe somebody on camera is actually performing the song, like that. Having that requires kind of knowing how to write songs and lyrics that work well on TV. And so two things, it's all about studying the game. If you're studying commercials, I always send people to the site called iSpot TV, where it's just a big repository of commercials, and they load new ones up every week, and just watch new commercials that are loaded and take note of the type of music that's being used. Take note of, why certain songs are being used. Certain songs are being used because it's a famous person doing it, like Lizzo just had a new release, and they want Lizzo's song. But if a song's out there by an independent artist, it was picked because something about the sound of it or something about the words that they were saying really worked with that scene. And so trying to reverse engineer that will tell you kind of what to write. So iSpot TV, and then another site is TuneFind, which is good for studying TV shows. They catalog TV shows and all the music used in each episode. So it's like a Wikipedia for music on TV. You can go there and pull up an episode of All American.
Yeah.
In season 4, episode 2, here are the 10 songs that we used, and here are the Spotify links, so you can listen to the full song, and you can try to, like, again, reverse engineer, why was this used? Why does this work? And what about it, made it work?
So for you, like, when you're looking for music for your camp, what are some stuff that you're looking for, and what's some stuff that is, like, been declined?
Good question. So I have Control Camp, which is the education community. And then last year I launched Sus3 Music, which is my sync agency. And the two of them work together. Sus3 Music is kind of like the farm Control Camp is kind of like the farm for Sus3 Music. We're able to, we post briefs in the community whenever Sus3 is looking for music. And so for me, I kind of always keep my ears to the streets. I have a lot of music supervisors talking to me saying, hey, we need more of this, or we have too much of this. Can you send us something? I get briefs sent to me every day asking for particular types of music. And so as I get that, I try to curate a catalog of music sourced from Control Camp community of what I'm looking for. So like some of the things I'm looking for, well, we just actually did a round of submissions, and some of the things that we were looking for are like Afrobeats music that's high energy with English lyrics that are talking about more like ad-friendly themes and not like so much the love theme. So we get really specific in what we're looking for to fill the needs that are that we're seeing both on commercials and in TV. Alternative hip hop is really big right now. Alternative hip hop being an artist like a Duckworth over say a mainstream hip hop artist. So but hip hop in general all around, especially if it's clean and ad friendly and high energy and really dynamic, is there. Pop is definitely pop has always been popular and will always be, but right now pop is in this place where it's like pop really means this hybrid of all these genres. It's like hip hop influence, there's even Afrobeat influence in it, and R&B. Pop artists have R&B swag now. Like, so you're hearing all this in there. So songs that have that flavor again, but that have like TV friendly or ad friendly themes work. And then rock has always been popular, especially for as long as they're going to be truck commercials, swamp shows, like exactly. Rock will always be needed, and the grittier, the better. The high energy, the better. Like that's always going to be.
And I think it's
there.
Even agree to with even just the content that's out now. It's a lot of love experiment shows. Real estate shows. I just watched Selling the OC, and I was like, oh my God, the music was trumping like the luxury lifestyle type of things to the dark gritty of the true crime and all that stuff. So I think we're both in the same agreement of how music it blends and elevates as the need of entertainment and stuff goes into different directions. Like, I bet you even we can talk about this too with even just in music in general with I feel like there's a rise of the female rap and the female representation, but I feel like there's been a lack of Black male representation within music, of course. And I really feel like it's really depleted and I bet you in your space too as well, and seeing it in TV. So how do you feel like the Black male voice has been depleted within this era of entertainment, TV, sync placement space?
That's a good question. So you phrased it. So I don't think of it as the Black male voice being depleted. I just think we're playing catch up with the Black woman's voice because it's been I've been paying attention to hip hop. I've been in hip hop since the very birth, and it's been all male. You know what I mean? You had Queen Latifah and Moni Love and a few, Roxanne Shante and a few Sparks. but for the most part, it's been mostly all male voice, and honestly, very hip hop has evolved to a very misogynistic place, and so at this point now, where I actually love it, where like arguably the best artists right now are women, and really dominate. And it's not like it's just one. Like almost every week somebody new is like really killing it coming out here. And so I think sometimes no matter what, whenever things are imbalanced, you need to have the imbalance. It's kind of like the whole thing going on with the argument against affirmative action, like that there's something unfair about that. But you have to tip the scales to fight decades of injustice, and so we gotta open up the room for more women to tell their stories, and my own personal view, for more women to come in so that women can tell more balanced stories. Because even when women were early let into hip hop, a lot of times they had male writers writing for them. And so a lot of that misogyny is still misogyny, even if it's coming from a woman's voice. And so I feel like women in hip hop are just now finding like their true voice. And I don't know if, I think that's still a journey to be able to have voices that that don't have that misogynistic male
that
influence
mouthpiece in the back.
pushing
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think, I don't know if I'm on topic anymore, but I just think that's I think that I like where we're going, and I think it's necessary. So from a black male perspective, especially in sync, I don't see a lack of that. I think there's more. I still think there's lots of opportunity. You do see a lot of ads saying, like, I do a lot in the ad space, and you do get a lot of ads that are looking for like specifically female empowerment. Like that is the number one most requested lyrical theme. Again, trying to look at the things that are not currently in the catalog or that they don't have enough of. And a lot of this started before the pandemic, when the Me Too movement kicked off. A lot of ads, and brands wanted to be on the right side of that. And so, female empowerment women's empowerment became the dominant theme in a lot of ads. And it made them realize that we don't have enough music to cover all this stuff. So now we got to like play catch up. So same thing when the social justice movement kicked off over the pandemic, they realized that we don't have enough, music to speak to social justice and black empowerment. And so and a lot of times they're playing catch up, but I am not seeing less need on the male side or the black male side. They're still trying to catch up with hip hop in general, and like the hip hop requests that I'm getting are not asking for male or female.
Do you think the hip hop request is because it's the 50th anniversary, or do you think that?
No, this has been since 2019, like really, really heavy. And you are seeing even leading up to the 50th. But even before the 50th, I was getting a lot of requests for like, I need hip hop that's from the 80s and the 90s. We need boom bap classic hip hop. Like,
do you think the plot twist is this? Because I'm noticing with the rise of documentaries, and like they're going back to, my favorite one that I watched was Jay Dilla's documentary. And first of all, I'm like, how do they get this stuff cleared? All this music cleared. But anyway, needless to say, because they're now digging into telling stories more of hip hop and telling more musical stories on the TV side, do you think that that's the reason why music, like the music and the syncing, has really become a rise? Because there's been a lot of documentaries, like music documentaries within this, within this last like 2 years, like you said, within the pandemic, the rise of like music documentaries and telling the stories on the musical side has been like the rise in just biopics and like all this stuff. So do you think that has also played a part in the rise of sync placement?
At the very least, they go hand in hand. I think it's the general recognition on the industry that, man, there's a whole segment of stories that we have not been telling. I think that's like the thing, sci-fi romance, biopics. There's a whole, big bucket of stories that have not been told, and now the whole industry is seeing that one, there's value to that. There's more of people of the culture in the actual writing or the producing room, or maybe even on the financing side, getting these stories told. And so I just think across the board, there's more urgency about telling the stories, and that requires music for the stories.
Yeah, I think somebody says here in shows like Atlanta and Dave, hip hop based shows, I found that so many cool songs are from there. Shout out to that, because there's some two awesome shows, like for real. But leading, into another topic with social media and content creating, that's, when you were saying with the ads, with the rise of social media, the content creators world, do you also think that sync placement has now been in that space? And tell us a little bit, like, have you gotten like requests in that world? How has that world kind of been in the marketing space for social media for music?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so social media is definitely a mainstream channel. We recently did an ad for Nissan, and that ad was primarily like for TikTok. Like, it didn't air on broadcast, it didn't air, and so that's now a category. When you're getting a placement, it can be, it's going to be on broadcast, it's going to be in a certain, it's going to be regional, or it's going to be global, or it's going to be online only, and they're priced differently, and so it's part of it's just part of the marketplace now, that music. So that's music. If you're swiping on TikTok, every now and then the ad's going to come up. That ad will have music playing in the background, like that brand paid for that music, and hopefully, an artist got paid for the music that brand is using. There's also music for content creators, and that's a whole, right now it's kind of like a wild west. Like, there are some services out there. Artlist is one of them. There's another one based out of Europe. I cannot think of the name of this. Like, probably one of the most popular services content creators use for music. But we don't really have. We're not union. We don't have any like representation. Like, some of the deals, like, content creators don't really know that that a lot of this, you pay $25 and you get unlimited sources of music. Depending on who you're working with, like, the musician is either getting little to nothing from that, or like that. I cannot think of who this large company is, but they make sure that the writers that work with them, they won't allow them to have PRO representation. So you can't be with BMI, ASCAP, or CSAC. You can only collect through them, but you can't get any back end collections, and you can't even be affiliated with the organization in order to work with them, which is insane. Yeah, and they're like the largest provider of music for content creators. So that whole area is like a wild west right now. And it's just moving faster than regulations can keep up with, and it's going to be like that. We're all going to have to just adjust to it, because there's no, you can't really control a thing like that. It's just going to evolve the way it's going to evolve.
And so, coming on the flip side, like, if I'm coming in as like a producer, executive producer, and I'm looking for music, whether it's like for my sizzle up to I get like the green lit and get some, funding in the budget for some music, what would be steps from the producer side when looking for music? And like, what has been your experience and some tips on that side for a producer to get content for their projects?
That's a great question. So I think that I think my biggest personal recommendation is thinking about the music as early as possible, and how music will fit into, like, you were talking about your idea, and how, like, you're already thinking about, my picture has a certain sound about, like, you're already thinking that way. And so once you start thinking that way, the next step is thinking about the players who can bring you that. So does that mean I need a music supervisor who can help me get this sound and get it in a way that's going to be legal, which is the biggest issue with music, is making sure that you're getting it legal at the budget that you can work
Exactly.
with. So a music supervisor is one of the probably early things that you want to pull into a show, as well as a composer, which is usually working separate from, you got the people who have the buckets of pre-cleared music that you might use, but then you have the composer who's going to create the original score. And so those people, I think I've talked to composers, and sometimes they're brought in very early and they're part of the discussion because they're at the workshops. When the ideas are being tossed around, they're in on those conversations, and others are coming in later after that's already happened, and then they're expected to just we've already assigned the budget and we already kind of know what we want musically, and now we're just putting that on you, expecting to make it happen, and that's always the more challenging situation.
Yeah.
So bringing in those people and partners as early as possible to talk through, okay, if this is the music you want, and it could be reaching out to somebody like me, a sync agent who has a collection of music, could be a music supervisor, composer. If you want, like, take a show like P Valley or Rap Shit on Issa's show, like those shows, the original music is a key part of the show. So you need songwriters, you need producers who are actually creating. You can't just go to a library or agency and say, just give me, some cool songs. You need those too, but you actually need writers and producers. So depending on your show, you need to be thinking about that as early as possible.
Agreed. And so because we've already up into the almost hour.
Wow.
If you have anybody, I think we have 12 people still here. So if you want to throw in a question or two, we can. But I will do a wrap out question before I take it away to the audience. For you, where do you see the future of sync placement? Like I said, I know we talked all day, constantly about the strike and how it's I honestly think the strike, for me, it's kind of, again, another shift like it was for the pandemic for something different, greater, and everything. And I know with the conversations of AI and that whole world, where do you see the future of sync placement for just creatives as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, and God willing, despite if history says anything, the strike will be temporary. It'll be over at some point, and we'll get back to telling stories. But I totally agree with you. This is the time to create content. If you're on the musician side, this is the time to study the game, to get your own content up. I've heard from numerous music supervisors that just like during the pandemic, right now, this is the time where they're home. So one, they're a little more open to being contacted than they may have been at other points of the year. They're actually going through the emails. A lot of them are going back, to emails that have been sent, that they hadn't had a chance to listen to. So some of the music you may have sent might be getting, at least listened to now, or they're reorganizing or categorizing things in their disco.
So Eric is saying to follow up with your people. If you do a check-in on your tribe, check-in on your emails to people you sent catalog to, because he's saying that this is the time. This is the time.
This is the time for that, yes.
Anything else you see with the future as well for sync placement?
So I think that so much. One, I just think I think we're entering this phase of unlimited content. There's more streaming networks than ever before. I think that's only going to increase. And so more content means lots. I think there's going to be lots and lots of music. So this whole intersection of more content, this greater need to represent a lot of different cultures. So you've got, music that represents the African content, music that represents South America, and music that represents the India and Australia. We're so much more conscious about telling stories from all over the globe, and all those stories require music. So there's going to be a lot of areas to get in where you fit in. You can still do your thing and find your thing in sync. So I think I see it only expanding. I mean, there's other legal things we have to work through, copyright issues and low streaming costs and declining sync fees. There's a lot of legal stuff that You know, AI is a whole other thing that's going. You know, who knows where that'll go, how that'll impact what we
Yeah.
do. But in all that, I think historically, there's still going to be more and more and more opportunities for those who are paying attention and staying studied, staying aware of what's going on and studying the game.
Oh my gosh. Like I said, just within 1 hour, Eric has given us so many gems and so many things. Like, I'm even just like, okay, I got to go back. I got to unblock the ads so I can pay attention to the ads. I need to pay attention to independent creatives because, like I said, like, people are creating. And I think that, like you said, like, with this stillness, you know, peace be still. And that's where you get to be able to just be like, okay, I can create. But at the same time, as you know, with myself elevating into how I've gotten into from executive assistant to field to now post-production, I've seen the like need of music in every little nugget that I've been in my life, like i.e. for Bring It. I know, god dang, all day long, people be like, the music in Bring It just did not match. And it didn't, because the stuff that they was on Bring It, that for that lifetime vibe, when I was in the field, we was listening to bounce music and to all the things.
Right.
We was not listening to Jennifer Lopez's "Drop It Low" or that one Lil Jon song that was acceptable in the cracks.
I'm glad you said that, because it wasn't just Bring It. I feel like all those dance shows, a lot of the dance shows, I could tell they have problems clearing. Like, you could sometimes see like the dancers are clearly dancing to hip hop. But then the music that's playing is like some happy-go-lucky something or some pop, anthem.
But that's
okay, well, they clearly
that's
couldn't clear.
What happens because, and I remember as a producer, like when we did that show, they had like a piece of paper. Like every competition we had a piece of paper, and we had the certain music that was clearable to the songs that they had on the list. And I think Lifetime worked with Banacor, which is like a pop company that I remember being around in reality TV, in the corporate side and going in the field. And so those were the only songs that we had, and they were very poppy, very like, because again, Bring It was what, 2008, 2017, 2016, 2018 time. Right. There was no hip hop music around that time. They thought pop was hip hop. So when we did have that space, like I remember, and like sitting there listening, the first time I was in a competition and I like was like, what is this the music that you're listening to? And like was listening to Bounce for the first time because we were able to have the opportunity to live in Mississippi and while we were filming there. And so it just would feel different when it's like I'm on set and I'm literally hearing bounce a biggie. And then when I get to the episode that I'm finally done and it's just like work, I'm like, that's not. And then I see the comments, they're like, what's wrong? And honestly, it's something where it was bigger. It showed me a little nugget of the bigger conversation of why isn't music matching in the places? But thankfully, years later, 2023, we've now just gotten into the surface when I did a show, The Hype, with Streetwear show, where it was fully like, thankfully we had, our EP, Ricky Hughes, who was like, this music has to match. And we had like an awesome music team that really like gave the hip hop, but we had LA specific episodes like the Nipsey Hussle episode. Right. You knew it was an LA episode, like the music changed. And so, I appreciate your, business, your like growing accolades to be that olive branch for people in the music industry to blend those two together. And so before we go, give us the information and just give us all the outreach that we can be able to like shout out to you, get your information and learn more about what you do with Culture Camp and all of your sync placements.
And let me just say, I didn't know you worked on The Hype, but that was like the start of our agency. It's probably one of our first placements. We were working with Sync Collective. Shout out to Prima, who runs a group at the LA called Sync Collective. But we partnered with them and got some stuff on The Hype.
Y'all music was on point. Listen, okay, and you know what's so crazy? It's like when you have a project that has the music taken care of. Let me tell you something, them white editors, it's a little less stressful for them because then they can focus on the story and they're not over here sitting there having a heart attack to try to piece to the network and EPs for music that they don't understand. So tell us, the community, where can we follow you and your businesses?
Okay, so Control Camp, which is CTRL Camp, like Control Alt Delete. That is the Sync education community. So you go to controlcamp.com. It's a free education community, free to join. You can get a profile. Once you're in there, you get access to a free Sync 101 course. You get access to submission opportunities. You get access to peer review, having your music listened to, and from other people who do Sync. And then, so that's controlcamp.com. And then if you want to know more about the Sync agency, that's sus3 music, S-U-S, the number 3 music.com. Sus3 Music is the agency. We only take submissions through Control Camp, so we don't take email submissions or anything like that. Just when we're looking for music, we post it in Control Camp to the community, and everybody, and there's no charge. Everybody can submit for free, but we just do it all through there because you have to take the course, which is free. Everything's free, but it's still necessary because, back to what I said earlier, having the education level is critical to success here. And so we want all of our music supervisors who work with us to know that we're grooming an educated community. We're opening up access, but we're not just opening the floodgates. We're opening up access by providing education to anybody who wants to learn, and those people who get the education can then participate in the opportunity.
That's right. So like he said, you can only musicians, if there's any independent artist that's on here, if you're looking for a chance to have your music placed, you got to go on Control Camp and you have to take the course in order for you to have the submissions, to have that access and all the jazz and the good gems that you get for that stuff. So like I said, it's been awesome to have this IG Live talk with you, Eric. It has been an awesome blessing to meet you. I think God put us together in this world for a reason on February.
I believe that.
I believe it so. And so like I say with Queens of Production, I'm excited for next month because we got a whole, the people that I have for October, it's going to be a joy. So make sure, because it's going to be a Halloween special specifically, so I'm going to have you dress up in all the things. But again, if you want to get recap of this video, we will have a recap video down within 24 hours. But the full video will be on here on Queens of Production as well if you want to take a look. But like I said, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much for the community for just giving the gems of music. I'm going to go run and unblock those ads so I can be able to be a blessing too. And like I said, we're going to talk later about your...
Yes, please do. And kudos on all this, like this, all the information you've been sharing, gems as well, just to the whole production community. There's so many people who want to know how to get into that world. And so I'm thankful for meeting other people who, I know how much time it takes to learn, how to do what you do and how to become part of all of these communities have traditionally been very gate-kept. And so those of us who get in there and then are like, okay, let me tell people how they can participate, you're a blessing. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you so much. See, and that's what the networking that we don't talk about. Genuine connections with genuine people. I'm a music head, so that's what got me connected with you anyway. And like I said, just continue, like we always say, live, love, and create. So I hope you all had a great little 1 hour of knowing everything music, everything sync placement. And like we said, we will tap in October. Stay tuned and catch y'all for the rest of the evening. Bye, y'all.
See y'all later.